So originally I was going to make a official Final Fantasy VII Remake review, but since it's been so long since the game has been out, I decided to instead make a honest opinions, my love-hate relationship of the game. Really quickly before we actually get into the video, let's talk about a couple things. First, my background history with Final Fantasy as a whole series. Number one, I played Final Fantasy VII, the original game, a couple months ago. I beat it on the PC version of it, so I am new to Final Fantasy VII. I absolutely love that game, by the way. And so right after I beat it, I actually picked up the remake copy so I could play and relive some of these moments in a newer version of the game. So number two, I just want to mention some spoilers. This video will be as spoiler-free as possible, but I will let you know that the gameplay in the background that's playing during this video is going to be of the first 2 to 3 hours of the game. So if you see anything there, again, it's nothing spoiling, it's just the first couple hours of the game, just so you guys know. Now moving on to the actual part of the video. Yes, I have a love-hate relationship with the game. I love the game a lot, but at the same time there's a lot of things that I hate about the game that I wish they could have done differently. So first, let's start off with some negative things I hated. So the first thing I hated, this game was way too long. It took me about 35 hours to complete, which for a normal Final Fantasy game, that is a normal playtime right there. I totally get it, that's totally fine. But when this is a remake of an original game, Final Fantasy VII, and it's not even the full game, it's just the Mechura section, which literally is just like a 5 to 7 hour section in the original game. Stretching that 5 hours into 35 hours, you can tell. Like, you can honestly tell, especially if you played the original, you know they're stretching the content and making side quests and different things. It's stretching every single area and every single scenario to as long as they can, just so they have more playtime. And maybe it's my fault for playing the original game first and then knowing how long each section should take. Because honestly, in the original, a section might take 5 minutes to get through, and in this game, it might be a whole hour or two just to go into that and do the same thing that they do in the original game in like 5 to 10 minutes. Second thing I didn't like too much is that the story went a little bit too far off the original script. Now I get it, it's a remake, but at the same time, I think they tried to make it too original and too different at some points, especially towards the end. Again, not get spoiled anything, just gonna let you know towards the end it does get a little wonky and weird. And I don't know if I hate it too much. It's like a between of love and hate. The reason for that is because I hate the fact that they don't stick to like the main script, as I really enjoy the original, but at the same time I like it because it gives them more creative freedom for the second game or for any other games that make in the future in the Final Fantasy VII realm of things. So it is quite interesting to see what's going to happen with that story now that they are able to go a little bit off script. But at the same time, I feel like I want to see more of how it happened in the original. There's some scenes in the original that I really want to see in the remake that just didn't make it into the remake, which sucked. Certain parts and boss fights are stretched out for length. It gets annoying when you have to do the same puzzle 5 different times just to make the game longer. There's no other reason but making the game longer. That's the only reason they add these puzzles and make them as long as humanly possible. Moving on to the boss fights. So the bosses are stretched for length. They have multiple stages, multiple forms. You're not just fighting one boss one time. Like you'll fight the boss, you'll damage it, and then it'll recharge its health, it'll go into a second form, and then a third form, and then be a fourth or fifth form. So it'll constantly have different forms, and you're just constantly fighting these big bosses, which is cool in some ways, but it's also just, it feels like it's too long. Some of these bosses took way too long to fight. It wasn't enjoyable. It was just like, oh my god, let's get it over with. How many more times can this boss transform and change? The game would have been absolute masterpiece if it was around 20 hours. I know it's not Final Fantasy, a big 40-hour game, But if they actually just tried to make it 20 hours and focus more on the story and shortening some of these puzzles and things that were too expanded and too stretched out, this game would have been amazing throwback to the remake. It would have been amazing throwback to all the fans of the original game coming together and really enjoying the game for 20 hours and having a solid story that you can enjoy throughout the whole time instead of being bored most of the time. I actually had to put the game down a couple times and I didn't play for a couple of weeks at a time because it was just so boring, and it just got to the point where I'm playing and I just gotta do so many things and so many side quests and so many extra tiny little steps to move on to the next section, next chapter, when in the original, because I knew how the original played out, it was so much shorter. So it was something that I just felt like if this game was 20 hours, half the time it took, and the onset of 35 was like half of that time, this game would have been perfect. It would have been amazing. It would have been fast paced, it would have been smooth, it would have been an amazing time, and I think I would have enjoyed it a lot more. Now moving on to one last thing I hated about this game, and that's the side quests. So side quests, they were good. I'll say the first couple side quests, it's awesome. You get to see Cloud sort of change. He comes in, he's this big bad mercenary, you know, guns for hire. You hire him, he does a side quest. There's some story behind each of these side quests in the beginning chapters. And after that, people start recognizing you as, hey, you're that mercenary that's doing a really good job. Everyone respects you. Everyone likes you. And you see Cloud change in these side quests as well. You know, he becomes a lot more easier to talk to. He becomes a lot more nicer. But then, Chapter 14 happens, and I'm not going to tell you exactly what happens, but that is the last time you do a side quest. And, oh my god, guys, can I tell you that these side quests were just so annoying. Now, my goal, I actually did all the side quests. I did everything. If I didn't do the side quests, I probably would have beat the game in about 30 hours. But the final chapter side quest probably took me a good 4 hours to complete, 3-4 hours. I actually used a guide because of just, it wasn't just a simple go to this location, fight a enemy or whatever, come back, which were the original side quests in the beginning of the game. They were usually like that. This was more like, hey, I got 3 locations you gotta go to. I won't tell you exactly where those 3 locations are. You just gotta go through the whole map and try to find it. Now, some of them weren't like that, but most of them were. And it got a little annoying because it just felt like they were trying to stretch. They were like, oh my god, we don't have enough gameplay. We gotta stretch these side quests out. And all of a sudden, the side quest became something totally different. So, it felt a little forced. Now, let's move on to things I liked, because I think I talked about things I hated a little bit too much here. First is the opening cutscene and opening chapter. Guys, I cannot tell you, when I was replaying this again in New Game Plus to get the footage for this video, that opening cutscene is absolutely freaking amazing. Just seeing Midgar, after playing the original game, seeing Midgar, seeing all its townspeople, how it looks in real life when you go into the reactor, and when you're reunited with your favorite characters like Jesse, Wedge, Biggs, Barrett, and Cloud. It's just an amazing experience watching them talk to each other, banter, and really reliving the beginning opening of Final Fantasy VII, which was an incredible opening, to be fully honest with you guys. Another thing I liked about this Midgar section, you are not this eco-friendly group of people trying to save the world. You are treated as a terrorist. Everywhere you go, especially after the reactor blows up, you are treated as a terrorist. People are scared of the situation. They're watching, they're like, I can't believe this happened. Like, why are we letting these people go get them, catch them? People are mad, people are crying, they're sad, they just lost their buildings, their loved ones. And you get to see how this has impacted and really done damage to you and the team. And it makes you reconsider if what you're doing is actually a good thing or not. And I think that was one of my most favorite things, because in the original game, you don't experience that. You sort of just go on, you forget about the damage that really happened, and you move on. And here, this is where they did the stretching out the content in a proper way. Like, this was, I wanted to see more of this, like the damage, and they do a really good job in showing that in a good time fashion to show you, oh my god, like this is what you did, this is the bad that you accomplished and done to the people because of your actions, because you're trying to save the world. But at the same time, it's not Shinra that you're really hurting as much as the people that are living there by the reactor. They're getting damaged, they're hurt, they're killed, all that stuff. Moving on to another thing I really liked was the character development, and this goes back to the Midgard development and all that stuff. The character development, especially with like Jesse, was just awesome. It was amazing to sort of see how Cloud and Jesse interact with each other, how just Cloud and Tifa and Aerith, how they interact with each other, and how each one is different. Tifa is, that best friend. They used to know each other. They have that romantic chemistry in the background. You sense something is happening. Like you sense they have some kind of love relationship going on. And Aerith is just this fun, cute little girl that's just out there being energetic and encouraging Cloud to open up, and the banter between each other is amazing to see how Aerith is trying to break down Cloud's defenses and walls, and she's trying to give him a high five, and Cloud's just like, no, I'm good. And at the end you see like they high five each other. Like, it's awesome to see that character development and them spending more time together, which you really don't see as much in the original game because all this was cut down much shorter. And so it's like you knew that this was going on when you're playing the original game, but now you get to experience it in the actual game in this remake, which was just beautiful to see. So I played this game on the original PlayStation 4. I will say the visuals are amazing. The characters look awesome, especially the main characters. They all look really well. That being said, though, small little gripe I had with the visuals, it is an old system, so you will see a lot of blurry textures. Textures all around are bad. Some non-playable characters just look absolutely horrible, blurry, there's no detail. But again, this is a PlayStation 4 game, and it's reached its end of its timeline. We have the PlayStation 5 coming out, so it doesn't look that good. I can't speak how it looks on the Pro or the PlayStation 5. The visuals and the way the textures looked didn't bother me for the most part. There are some scenes where you can notice it, but for the most part, you can't really tell because everything still looks really good. Especially the cutscenes, especially the Midgard section, the opening scene, everything just looks beautiful. So it's definitely nothing to worry about. Another thing I really liked is that they stayed true to the story, the original story, mostly. Obviously towards the end and different sections throughout the game, they change up a little bit, but they really nailed the scenes and the things that I really wanted to see from the original. They had it here, and they expanded it mostly in a good way. There's a couple scenes where it was a little bit too long, but other times it was just amazing to really get this character development, really focus more on things that I wish would have happened in the original, or I wish would have been expanded in the original, and it happens here in the remake, which is just beautiful to watch and see. And the last thing I really loved about this game is Jesse's backstory. There's a mission in Chapter 4 where you actually go and do some things with Jesse and the squad, Wedge and Biggs, and honestly this is one of the better chapters of the game because it made me really appreciate Jesse, the other characters, how much they love each other, the banter they have, how a great team they are, and really how Cloud is impacting that relationship with everyone there, how they're all starting to really bond with Cloud and really enjoy Cloud, having Cloud around. And this was really a wholesome and just awesome new section of the game that was not at all in the original game, but is something that you really get to experience and really enjoy. And that's one of the examples of something that they added, but it was a good length and good time to sort of experience, because I really enjoyed learning more about the backstory of Jesse and everyone else. That was my love-hate relationship with the game. There's some things I really loved and some things I really hated. A solid 8 out of 10. It was good. It was a good time, but there's so many things that they could have improved on, and I'm hoping they improve on in the sequel, that would make this game so much better and so much more replayable and have more value to it. instead of just trying to cram as much content there and stretch everything as far as possible just for content and length sake. Instead, they should really focus more on the story. That being said, though, that is my rating, that is my review of this game. If you guys like this review, if you want more of a spoiler-ish video where we talk more in depth about different scenes in the game, let me know down below. You know, if we get a lot of views and likes, then maybe I'll make a video on that. That being said, though, guys, if you did enjoy, make sure you subscribe, join the Mitch family. I love you all, and have a great rest of your day.